I don't see it.
You'll be fine. There we go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, Heather Bowen Ray, my friend, and who lives in Boulder, which means that I'm like absolutely jealous because I love Boulder, is here to join us this morning, and we're going to talk about a whole lot of things. I popped some comments into the chat here, or into the description, but she is a copywriter for spas and wellness retreats, and has had this amazing career that has led you to this point. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Erin. It's nice to be here on your show. This is so cool.
What's it doing in Boulder right now?
It's beautiful. I went for a little walk this morning. It's like crystal clear skies, cool air.
Colorado. It's always amazing. Oh, that's so awesome. So we've talked so much over the last couple months, and I have loved getting to know you, but I'm really curious, and there's so much I want to cover, but why wellness retreats? How did you kind of land on that as the area that you want to serve?
Yeah, well, I started out as a copywriter for healers. So I worked with dozens of solopreneurs in that wellness space. I'm also interested in inner voice work and wellness in general. So after working with those kind of solopreneurs and some small wellness centers, I decided that I wanted to evolve into more specifically spa retreat spaces. And it's a little woo, but it really came to me kind of in a vision or a meditation that I did. And more than once. So I was like, clearly my subconscious is speaking to me about, this desire to help people with their inner voice through spa retreat centers.
That's very cool. And you've always had this thread of wellness, and like forever, like since you were in the Peace Corps too. Like I feel like that's played a role as well, which I think the Peace Corps are so cool. I almost went when I was living in Costa Rica. I came back and it was like, this is interesting. I want to join this because I met a guy who I didn't meet a guy. Like I just happened to meet someone who was there. And I was like, how did you get Costa Rica? This is amazing. And then our neighbor, when we were living in our last house, had just finally gotten deployed to Albania when COVID hit. And so she came back and she was waiting for like an entire year and a half to find out if she got to go back. Finally, she's like, you know what? I can't keep putting my life on hold for something that may or may not happen for another like 3 or 4 years before they send people back in. So 1990s West Africa was a little bit different than the COVID years. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was cool, fun, completely mind-blowing experience for me. And I just saw, actually, it's funny because I was looking up some people recently, past volunteers that I've served with, and I saw that they just put their next, they just re-entered in Togo as a group of volunteers just this year. So just this, I don't know, it was the last few months. Yeah. So it was Togo, West Africa. Yeah.
And what were you doing when you were there? What program were you part of?
Yeah, it was a safe motherhood and child survival program. So I did get really excellent training in motherhood and the birthing process and nutrition, even all, that far back. Just the basics, but it was really rewarding, I guess, when I had a chance to work with people and, felt like you're making a difference. And, but more than that, I think Peace Corps does impact, the volunteer themselves. It really broadened my world for sure. I had traveled a lot in the United States, but not outside of the United States before I went there. So, yeah, it was just a real shock at the time.
Well, and it may not feel like obvious to you, but I'm like, to me, it's like, wow, all roads really do lead to this point. I feel like that's kind of the start of this. And maybe not, maybe this has been longer. Maybe this is me from the outside looking in going, wow, this is so cool. But and so you've also worked with NGOs, you spent some time in DC and doing a lot of communication. So what led you to copywriting? What kind of made that be a thing for you?
Yeah, when I was in DC, I was in communications the entire time, marketing communications, and even before that, I was in Baltimore for a little bit, and both places did kind of marketing communications management. So when I moved to Kansas City after living in Washington for 11 years, that's when I worked with. I think I said this to you once before. There's not really a huge, international development community in Kansas City. Or at least there wasn't at the time I was there. So, I kind of merged into more of the marketing communications side. So I worked with a couple of agencies there and got an up close look at like what a, copywriter with a capital C really does day to day. And at that time I was.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And so yeah, I think and then it was around 2018. I think I started writing some product descriptions for a toy store, and then I started writing for a healing. It was like a business incubator for healers. So
Awesome.
Writing regularly, marketing, promotional copy, and blogs and content. So. Yeah.
So you've really always
and it just felt natural. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I said you've really always been a copywriter. You just didn't realize, and that was my road too. It was like, oh, this thing like since 2011 where I've been trying to get people to actually open their emails. That's copywriting? Cool. I can get paid more than like, at the time I thought like $20 an hour was amazing, but fresh out of college in 2005, it was like, okay, this is great. But yeah, anyway, so it's amazing to see like how much all roads really do lead to this point. So what you're working with day spas, and you're kind of moving into this, not just day spas but wellness centers. What kinds of things do you like to help them with? You've talked about like unleashing your inner voice.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work with about pages or about stories, bios, really seeing into someone, because people are changing all the time. They're always adding new things to their, skill set and expertise. And so they need to share that. So, and then also I think most people's about pages are, underperforming in terms of what they can do potentially. So that's, what I like to do is sort of like interview the person and really bring out their inner essence. And that's if it's a solopreneur. And then, excuse me, if it's a larger healing center, I can interview the entire staff. Done that before. And try to bring out things that are the similarities that make them good at their jobs, but also the differences that make them individually sparkle.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see on some of these about pages?
Well, I was just getting ready to write an article about this. What I see, at least local spas and resorts and retreats kind of getting, I'm going to flip it so that it's not just, this is what you're doing wrong, but this is what I've been seeing is like vague wording. They put up discounts before they even tell you what the thing is, how much, what you should be valuing it at. There are threats of upsells coming a mile away that don't feel client focused. So, what the best resorts do is just make you feel incredibly welcome, comfortable, and you don't get that sense of, I think it might be like an era of desperation. Sometimes with new people starting out, that just leaks through. So that's where I think a copywriter can help. That would be in the industry. Just someone outside of yourself who can take an objective look and help you round it out and smooth out. Because, I think the people I like to work with have their clients' best interests at heart, ultimately. So, like, let's put that on the page or let's put that on the screen.
So what's your approach to helping them do that? You've said you interview people, but how do you, what does that look like? What does that process look like? Because you love about pages.
I like about pages. I like entire websites. I like the whole package, the launch from start to finish. But I think what I have done that works pretty well is use that kind of a hero's journey or heroine's journey framework, or even a quest, sort of story framework. And that's why I named my website let'swriteyourstories.com. It's really about the brand story itself. And, there are usually like 7 steps in there, and you try to put the customer as the main focus. I was alluding to that earlier, but that's the idea with the story. And then so you flesh out every step along the way, and then that gives you material that can be used throughout everything else that you do. Marketing, it really guides the process. And and it reminds you to speak to your one true customer avatar. So the voice is a little bit more consistent. And honestly, when I've written for myself, I forget that sometimes. So it's always hardest to do your own marketing, I think.
It is. And I think you question yourself. You're like, this is great. And then you're like, is it really? And then it's like, if I can't do this, should I even be in business at all? Why can't I do this? I mean, whether you're a copywriter, whether you're a masseuse, whether you're, I don't know, whatever, like an engineer, whatever it is, it's like, oh, if I can't talk about this, how can I even do it? And it's like, that's not the case, because you talk about it all day long, but it's just like something about translating it into writing is extremely hard. It's excruciating.
That's right.
And
especially for yourself, because you have the whole vat of material to work with. And so it's how do you decide, which thing goes in, or, you have to really focus. And that to focus means you have to sacrifice some things. And no one really wants to do that. That's another thing.
You're like, this nugget is so awesome. I can't let it go.
Cram this in there too. And don't forget about that. And what about this offer? And I've got this thing coming, it's a lot. So that's what I like about the niche of spa retreats, is it's a place where, the end user, the customer, can go to hear themselves and hear their own thinking and get out of that. Like, you're talking about the critic or the survival brain. And turn it into something where you're listening to really your conscious mind, or your, inner wisdom.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So where do you start these interviews? Like what's the number one thing that you ask people to get them to kind of tap into that?
I like to start, so you said number one thing. And so I usually just start broad and general, and then drill down into something more specific, because I think that helps loosen them up and make them feel a little bit more comfortable in talking. But it's like, it's like when you're at a party and you're networking, you can ask, what do you do, this, that, and that kind of conversation can go on for a really long time, and both parties not really be that interested in what they're talking about.
Like,
better. You can ask, what are you most excited about? Why are you really here? That sort of question that gets to the heart right away opens up so much more. So those are the kinds of questions I like to ask, Yeah.
I also like to ask people, like, what drives you crazy that you don't want to be? Because it is so much easier for people sometimes to talk about that than to talk about like what they want to be.
That's true. Yeah. And they're both important, I guess, when we're writing. You want to know the pain and the delight.
So we've talked a little bit about why medical, I'm calling them day spas, which is not necessarily correct, but why wellness, and like what you really like to do for them. If you close your eyes, wave your magic wand, like how would you like to be introduced, in 5 years, once you are known as the go-to for all of the spas in the world?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Or is that it? You like want to be known as the woman who makes it happen?
Which song would I choose? I don't know. I think I want to be known for doing something that does ultimately help people with their, inner self, like something deeper. And that hopefully I can do that same sort of thing for the spa clients themselves. The spas and retreats are a place where you can really reconnect with yourself. It's a place to connect with other people. friends, family, and they offer all kinds of different programming under that umbrella. So, yeah. And I was thinking about one of my first massage experiences. It was gifted to me when I was living in Washington, D.C. It was a spa in Georgetown, and how my previous experience were sort of like, come in, get a glass of water. Well, your masseuse will see you soon. Okay. And you're waiting there in the waiting room. But this was so welcoming. It was, oh, Heather, we're so glad you're here. We're expecting you. They made me feel like, oh, they know it's me. I'm here. Like, they really recognize me. And then they were like, here's your key. Go get your, super soft, fluffy robe and your slippers. And then please let me get you some tea. And you just forget everything else that's going on in the world. And that's what I want to be known for, actually, is creating that kind of experience for my client so that they can do it for theirs.
I can see like all these things happening on your website, like with the glass of curated like fruit infused waters and teas, and like, I wonder if those could be packages. Like, this is the direction that my brain always goes. It's like, ooh, how could you make your website look like a day spa? How could you make it look like all these like special pools and mud bath rituals? All these. So I'm going to Napa with my best friend in just a month. And so we've been talking about mud baths. So mud baths are definitely on my mind. But,
Okay.
I think like there's opportunities with all these websites too that we've been going to as we're like doing our research over Zoom. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so, but it's like the ritual. I like the ritual side of it. I think I think you're right. I think it's underutilized and understated. And if you can really talk to people about what this experience is that you're going to give them, and so that they can in turn give it to their clients, I think that's insanely cool. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I get off on these tangents.
I agree. I know you're sparking all kinds of ideas in my own mind too about how I could promote myself. And I really appreciate Coffee Snacks. It's such a fun, relatable brand, and you've built out all of these systems around it that do help people, have a really nice experience, including, leading up to this conversation, the systems and processes you've put in place. So I really admire you, and I hope I'll be that productive implementing all the ideas that these things are sparking.
Well, I cannot take like total credit for the process. Do you know Tiffany Ingle? I think she left Think Tank right as you were coming in. She had a podcast, and I think she still does. I think it's just on hiatus right now. And so that was her process for getting people in. And I was like, can I borrow that and take it and make it my own? Because it's like, cool. It gives people what they need to know. It drips out reminders at the right time. And every once in a while, if there's a last minute, you're like, can't do it today. Something came up, and it's like, that happens. There may be some hiccups with like some of the reminders going out if they've already triggered the workflow, but for the most part, it works really, really well. So, but we were talking offline. Coffee Snacks was this hanger-fueled brand name experience. So it was like, there's something there. I just want chips and salsa, and I'm driving around Green Bay, and I can't get to the right AT&T store to give me the information I need. And I was like, I should just go home. There is something there. It's just, it's fun. And I don't tell that story enough on the website. I probably need to, because maybe I'll just tell it in a video. I like video. I'm starting to love video even more, because it is a fast way to get to the point. And I think it really helps people. It sets the tone for what working with you is going to be like, and it helps people get to know you as well. There's actually, we're talking about pages, and I want to get back to you because we go off on these tangents, and I'm like, but we're here to talk about Heather. And so much of his brand is him, and how he's incredibly welcoming and accessible and approachable, but yet he has to speak to these very sophisticated clientele. And so it's like, we can do this in the copy, but we also need the placeholder for your video, because that has to be, you have to be there to tell your story, because it doesn't do it justice to not have you also speaking. Like, let's do both.
Yeah. Right. So maybe write it out first. I mean, this is what my process would be if I were to do that, is to write out that process using one of the brand story frameworks, so that then when I'm on video, it really comes quickly and succinctly. And, remember, for me, the challenge is, it's not all about me. I have to remember that.
It's hard. And it's like, how do you make your client the hero? Like, how do you do that when, in fact, it's your secret sauce? You are the guide here. So it's this fine tune. And I think that's why, going back to like our discussion about why it's so hard for people to write their own. Sorry, this one chunk of hair is like driving me nuts. Is that it's very hard to make that switch from the I, we to the you, your framework. And you can have some like together will, but it's such a tricky fine line to really take yourself out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And to talk to someone as opposed to telling them. And like, just converting it from here's what you're going to get, this letter, to a conversation. So they do feel welcome. They feel that atmosphere, that day spa atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, you're really good at doing that in your industry. And that's, I think, what my
you are in yours as well. So what is one of the things that is going on, like in the day spa or even the copywriting industry, that you are not a fan of, or a misconception that you feel like you're always having to tackle as you're talking to some of these clients?
I think there's a lot of timidness with the clients themselves, and maybe that's why they come to me in the end, is because I'm not over the top promotional. They just want to be there doing great work and serving people. At least that's most of the healers that I know. They don't really love marketing. So it's, how do you put your marketing out there in a way that doesn't hit people over the head and put the focus on, I keep coming back to that, but it's really essential, not put the focus on you, but maybe, if the wellness center helps people do basic relational work or work through complex issues, you want to highlight what they do best and forget it's, you have the offer too. So that, I guess that's where I really thrive and specialize in, is linking the brand story to the actual sales tools and the offer. That sometimes people will be really good at the branding side or really good at the sales side, but it's really one fluid entity.
Yeah, I can see that, especially for that reticence to make it, to use your words, promotional. And but at the same time, how do they continue to get more? There's a point when your past clients only have so many friends that they can refer you to, and even if they're your biggest advocate, they're like, this person changed my life. ... There's at some point when you at least have to have a website so that people can go and find out about you. You at least have to have some kind of email list so that you can communicate things that are coming up. Yeah.
And I see that a lot too. The emails, like a reluctance, and I think I know what it is the feeling of like, oh, then we have to do it forever. And it's like, you could do a welcome series just to upgrade the client experience without having to commit to doing a regular ongoing email, just to start, and then ratchet up when you feel comfortable.
Or even like what to expect after you book an appointment. Like, and if you want to keep going, here's how you can. It's not like you have to. Here's some of the benefits. Yeah, I'm with you. That could be really, really incredibly interesting and rewarding, especially if you can show people the benefit of it without feeling like they're just showing up and irritating people. It's like, no, if they sign up for you, they really want to know more about you.
Right. They would love to get more services. Spa. I mean, name someone who doesn't want more spa services.
No, I mean, no, I'm not naming myself. Like name someone who wants
Exactly.
more? Yes, everyone.
Yeah, so it's making it feel like a real genuine invitation rather than, yeah, it's something that we're demanding that you do
Well,
as the spa.
yeah. And I think if you can show them how to come across in this genuine,
Mhm.
genuine fashion, that's what shines through. Just like you said, like at kind of the top of our conversation, they know when it's inauthentic. It comes across when it's in, I can't exactly remember the context of that, but you specifically said that. And it's like all of a sudden the same thing comes through an email. This you can say the
Mhm.
same two sentences, but if there's no authenticity behind it, people know. People know. It's crazy the
Yeah,
difference.
and maybe they're a little afraid of that too, that if they do emails that they've seen elsewhere, it won't feel like them. But that's where,
That's where
developing your
you
own
come
program,
in.
you can make it anything you want to. And it's
And
then just evaluating what's working and then doing more of that and less of the stuff that doesn't work. But it's
right.
not only we do it or we at full throttle or we don't do it at all. there's some
Absolutely. There's a middle ground. Awesome. Well, this has been like 30 minutes has flown by. We are here like with just a few minutes left. So I want to make sure that people know where to find you. So we've popped Instagram and LinkedIn here and your website. So you mentioned also that your Instagram link tree has a whole bunch of articles that you've written and some other things that you're doing. Um, what articles are you writing? I'm curious because I don't know.
Well, one of the last articles that I wrote was about how to create spa experiences at home. So that's awesome and accessible to everyone. And then I'll be writing more about the spa or retreat industry itself. I'm doing some research now, so I'll be, dripping out some of that information or sharing it as I find it, the little gems that are useful to people who are potential clients or just want to use the information and run with it. That's fine too.
That's fantastic. And your website is oh,
WriteYourStories.com.
let's writeyourstories.com. I was like, I know this. We were just talking about it. And so
Yep.
all of this is in the introduction. So
Okay.
as you're watching this live or on the replay, you can just head right there and connect with Heather, and they can contact you directly through your website as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a little
Fantastic.
email form at the bottom.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This is fun. I always enjoy our conversations, and
Ooh,
um,
yes.
you're such a warm and genuine person. So I appreciate that about you. So
You too, Erin. Thanks so much.
thank you.